So guys, this is one of those very rare times where I actually agree with the critics. So I'm a little bit late with this review. Let's talk about this movie Fantasy Island, which is a horror movie that came out last month. Over here it actually came out last week. We got it a little bit later. I know that over in the States they got this movie on Valentine's Day. We didn't get it till a few weeks later. So yeah, let's talk about this one. So first of all, going into this movie, I had heard of some of the criticisms of it. You know, I'd seen online that yeah, the movie really wasn't doing well with critics or with audiences. People pretty much hated it. It was getting pretty much panned, and I didn't expect anything of it. I mean, first of all, putting the criticism aside and putting the popular narratives and conceptions about this movie aside, I pretty much expected nothing from this movie anyway. I mean, it's a Blumhouse movie, and since when do Blumhouse make good movies? Let's be honest, Blumhouse are one of the worst fucking companies out there, especially when it comes to these types of movies, you know, these horror films. You know, they just make the cheapest, laziest, most exploitative garbage out there. I mean, let's be honest, this is the same company that brought us Black Christmas 2019. Oh, I shudder at the thought of that movie. If you guys didn't see my review for Black Christmas 2019, I urge you guys to go and check it out. I was, if you guys just want to hear me really pissed off and just destroyed by seeing a movie, go and check out my review for that one, Black Christmas 2019. Oh, even just saying it out loud makes me shudder. So yeah, this is the same company that brought us that. And if you look at their track record over the past few years, what have they brought us? You've got films like The Curse of La Llorona, you know, the Annabelle sequels, you know, all the shitty, exploitative, CGI-ridden, jump scare filmed Conjuring spin-offs, you know, because they're trying to copy Marvel. You know, all these companies out there now are trying to be the next Marvel. You know, they're trying to have a universe filled with spin-offs and prequels and sequels and pre-sequels and all these other, you know, branching movies. You know, you can never make a standalone movie anymore, can you? It's not just comic book movies that have that problem. It's the same with horror movies too. You know, everything has to be connected. Everything has to be some part of some wider universe, to the point where you just churn out these same formulaic, cheap, lazy, garbage horror films over and over. So yeah, I expected nothing from this movie, okay? I had no expectations for it whatsoever. And I thought, look, I know it's going to be bad, but how bad can it be? Because this year so far, I mean, we're in March 2019, we're midway through March. How many movies have we had this year that were any good, particularly horror movies? I mean, we had The Grudge, which was just unwatchable, unbearable, intolerable garbage. I mean, I did a review for that movie too. That movie was so fucking bad, it was unwatchable. It was definitely the worst film of the year so far. That one came out in January. That was like one of the first movies of the year. Absolute trash. One of the worst films I've seen in a long time. You had that movie Underwater, which was just a failed concept. You know, it was a movie that had an interesting premise that could have worked, but it was just so poorly executed. It was crap. Again, I reviewed that one too. You had that movie The Invisible Man, which I actually saw before this. I know it officially came out after, but I saw that movie before this one. A lot of people liked that movie. I mean, for example, my girlfriend, who I saw it with, she liked that movie, and a lot of people that I spoke to online liked it. I didn't like that movie. I thought it was very predictable, very formulaic. Seen it all before. I mean, it was a suspenseful horror thriller, but if you're gonna come with a suspenseful horror thriller like that, you gotta come better than that, man. I mean, despite being called The Invisible Man, you could see all the scares coming a mile away. I mean, it was quite ironic, and it was predictable. Like I said, it was formulaic. I've seen it all before. Didn't like that movie at all, personally. But this movie, so you look at those movies and how bad or how disappointing they were, and you just think, how bad can it get? Like, how bad can this movie be? Well, unfortunately, this movie, Fantasy Island, this movie is the worst kind of bad. This movie is bad on a whole other level. It's bad in the sense that it's mind-boggling how this movie even got made. And this apparently was made by the same team that made that movie Truth or Dare, which came out a couple of years ago. You know, that hilariously bad horror film that everybody enjoyed, but for the wrong reasons. You know, it was supposed to be a horror, it turned out to be a comedy. Now, sometimes that can make a movie enjoyable. You know, when a movie is unintentionally bad, you know, unintentionally funny. But this movie, unfortunately, just isn't funny. In fact, this movie isn't entertaining at all. I didn't laugh once. In fact, during while I was watching this movie in the theater, man, you know, during the runtime of the movie, the theater was very silent. Everybody was quiet. A few people actually did walk out, but you know, it was a packed theater, and most of the people were quiet. Nobody laughed at any of the jokes or any of the moments that were trying to force out some comedy. But see, when the movie ended and the credits came up, multiple people burst out laughing, as if to say, that was so bad. How did that get made? Like, everybody in the audience had the same reaction, and people were whispering on the way out, saying, you know, trying to explain the plot of the movie to each other and asking, like, wait, this doesn't make any sense. What happened there? You know, trying to bring up certain plot points and certain plot twists, and it was like the writing of this movie. And I listened to one review like a few days back. I listened to one of the big reviewers on YouTube who also covered this movie. And I don't usually agree with this guy, but he said it perfectly. You know, he summed it up perfectly when he said, and he was talking about the writing of this movie. He said that this movie feels like a first draft. He's absolutely right. That is exactly what this feels like. Do you know what this is like, right? This is like the people at Blumhouse and the whole writing team got together and says, oh, let's make a movie called Fantasy Island. Cool, what's it about? It's about an island, you go to it and you live your fantasy. Cool, we start production tomorrow. Should we write a script? You know, should we go over this? Nah, fuck it, it'll be fine. Just have the characters say funny things and, you know, have them insult one another, and we'll just make it up as we go. Come on, let's go into production, alright? We don't want to spend any time on this. That'll take time. That'll take effort. That'll cost money. Let's just shit out, you know, crap out a script in a day, and we'll see what happens. Let's just wing it. That's what this movie was like. That is what the writing of this movie was like. So we get introduced to these characters who show up at this island, right? Apparently they've won a competition, which, again, if I'm going to go into spoilers, maybe later in the video I'll explain why that doesn't make any sense. But yeah, apparently they won a competition, and they get to go to this island where they get to choose their fantasy, you know, and they get to live out their fantasy. How this fantasy works, or, you know, the explanations behind it, you know, the supernatural stuff, whatever, like however it works, it's never explained. It's never even attempted to, you know, be explained throughout the whole movie. But basically they show up at this island, they get to live their fantasies, blah blah blah. You knew that going in. I mean, that was all in the trailer, and shit starts going wrong, or at least for some of them, at least, you know, shit starts going wrong. There's one guy who wants to be in the army. Why you would go to a fantasy island to pretend to be in the army, I don't know. I mean, if he wants to be in the army, surely he could just, you know, join the army. I guess there's some backstory there that I might have missed. Maybe he explained why he can't actually join the army. If they did explain it, I don't remember. You know, there's two guys, you know, who are like adopted brothers, who are like pure over the top. You know, they're basically the comedy duo of the movie. They're trying to be funny. Unfortunately, they're not funny at all. There isn't one scene with them that was entertaining at all, or charming or anything. They were just annoying, irritating assholes. I wanted them both to die. There's a girl who wants revenge on her childhood bully. Again, doesn't make any sense, but I'll get into that later, right? When I get into talking some spoilers. And there's a woman who, what was it she wanted? She years before, a guy proposed to her and she said no, and she ended up single and alone, but she wishes that she accepted the proposal so she could have a kid with this guy. Again, it's just stupid shit. Maybe in a better movie that could have worked. Maybe that concept itself in another movie might have made sense, but it just doesn't work here. It just doesn't work at all, because this movie is so inconsistent with its tone, and with all the different fantasies overlapping and stuff like that, and you're not quite sure whose fantasy is which when it gets into it. There's so many like twists and turns, and I mentioned earlier about how bad the writing is. It's as if they were making it up as they went along. You know when you're watching a movie and you realise that things have been rewritten and things just don't make any sense, and the writers behind the movie don't really understand the story they're trying to tell. You know, that they're just in it to make money, basically. And that's Blumhouse over, you know, that's them down to a T. That's who they are. They're all about making the cheapest, most nonsensical, you know, cash grabs. You know, they take the name Fantasy Island because it was based on a TV show that some people remember, and make a nonsensical, stupid, idiotic story out of it that nobody will even pay attention to, or at least they assume that the audience is that stupid that they won't even pay attention to how much it doesn't make sense, and they'll just enjoy the ride, they'll pay their money, then that's it. You know, these types of movies I absolutely despise. I despise this type of cheap, exploitative garbage, I really do. And as far as the characters go, I shit you not, the first scene that we are introduced to all these characters, me and my missus in the theatre turned to each other and we literally, I'm not making this up, we said the exact same thing at the exact same time. We said, I hope every one of them dies. We literally, we turned to each other at the exact same second, and it was as if we were reading each other's minds. We said, I hope all these characters die, because they are so irritating. Like, the main character, or who it follows, you know, who the movie follows mostly, this girl Lucy Hale. I think she was in the film Truth or Dare. I think I heard that in another review. Yeah, she's the main character. She's oh my god, she's intolerable, man. She is irritating. Like, her acting, I almost don't know how to put it into words to describe how bad the acting performance was from this girl. I mean, I'm talking Kristen Stewart level bad, except maybe even worse. Like, I'm not even kidding. The rest of the cast, again, the two brothers, irritating, annoying. They don't act like real life people. They act like parodies of real life people. You know, because again, this is supposed to be a horror film, right? This is supposed to be scary, but the characters act like they're in like dumb comedies. They're acting as if they're in like one of the worst Adam Sandler comedy films, like one of the worst ones. Let's say an Adam Sandler comedy film post 2010. You know, like that type of acting, that type of you know, the way that they behave, where everything is so over. What's the word I'm looking for? There's a word I'm looking for to describe every single line of dialogue. Like, overemphasized, I think it is. Like, everything they say is overemphasized. It's like, oh, this, that, everything's so over the top, and everything's so parody-like, and so satirical, and just irritating as fuck characters. Like, honestly, the type of characters that when you see them in a movie, you're just like, dude, shut the fuck up, and please die. Like, those are the types of characters that are in this movie. You can't sympathize with them at all. And there are other characters in the movie, like the woman who wants to, you know, who wants to live her fantasy of having married the guy who she turned down. She just lounges around on a beach the whole movie and acts all sad and acts all sorry for herself. Even when she gets her fantasy, she's like, but it's not real. It's not real. I'm like, well, what the fuck are you doing there, living your fantasy if it's not real? Why did you even come? Why are you even there? And then she somehow figures out, and again, they're making it up as they go. She somehow figures out what's going on and whose fantasy it really is, and how there's a whole revenge plot going on here, and you know, the girl who wants revenge on her childhood bully, that's Lucy Hale's character. It's revealed in the end of the movie. Look, I'm just gonna get into spoilers because it's hard for me to even talk about this movie and how nonsensical it is without getting into spoilers. It's revealed that she is somehow the mastermind of this whole thing, that she's looking for revenge for something that happened to a guy who she had a thing for, and basically all of these people who were brought to the island with her, who apparently won the competition, all of these people were involved somehow. Except, when you see the flashbacks and you see the fantasies, you find out they weren't actually really involved. They were just sort of in the wrong place at the wrong time. So it's very unclear why she wants revenge on these people in particular. But not only that, but it's like, how did she know that each one of these people were involved? Because she wasn't even there when this happened. When this incident happened to this man, she didn't know who any of these people were. She barely even knew the guy. She met him once, and she wasn't even there while it happened. So how did she know every single one of these people, who was involved, where they were, what their fantasies were, and how she could get all of them to this island? Like, how was she able to orchestrate this? And not only that, but earlier in the movie, there are scenes with her character, scenes where she's on her own, there's nobody else there, and she's clearly confused and lost and doesn't know what's going on, and she clearly has no idea what's happening. Like, she's as shocked as anybody by stuff that goes on in the movie. So I don't understand that this plot twist makes no sense, okay? Her being the mastermind and her understanding what's going on and her having orchestrated this whole thing and her wanting revenge and her knowing about all these people, it doesn't make sense. I'm sorry, okay? It just doesn't. The movie also is very inconsistent with its lore. I mean, some of the fantasies, basically they bring in like I don't know if it's like holograms or like just you know, magical manifestations of these people. But then in other scenes, it's like in other scenes it's actually the person, like the girl who wanted revenge on her childhood bully. They actually get the childhood bully and bring her to the island. I'm like, wait, what? So now they're kidnapping people? And it's like, wait, not only that, but it's like she also has a doppelganger. You know, the childhood bully has a doppelganger on the island who does the big smile, you know, like the big creepy smile from the movie Truth or Dare. She kind of does that. I don't know whether that was a reference or not, but she does that weird creepy smile. And I'm like, what the fuck is going on with this movie? Nothing makes sense. Like, this is so poorly written. I don't think I have ever, I honestly, guys, I don't think I have ever come across writing this bad in a movie. It's so poor. Again, I mentioned tonal inconsistencies. The movie's trying to be a comedy, it's trying to be a horror, it's trying to be an action movie, it's trying to be a drama, it's trying to be like a satire and all that, like, but it's the worst kind of all of those things. When the movie does have action scenes, they're very poorly filmed, right? Some really, really poorly filmed and nonsensical action scenes. You know, because midway through the movie, it actually starts to become an action movie. And then there's, like, zombies, you know, there's, like, soldiers that are bulletproof and shit, like, there's black ooze, there's hallucinations, there's doppelgangers, there's everything in this movie. This movie has no idea what it is. It has no idea what it wants to be. Everything about this movie sucks. This movie is an epic failure. It is a failure on every single level possible. One of the worst films ever, man. Like, this film was so bad. I'm actually surprised that the critics were hating on this movie so much, because usually when a movie is this bad, critics call it a masterpiece. You know, like that last piece of shit I talked about that the critics thought was so good. But it just wasn't. I mean, usually when movies are bad, critics, I've noticed, like, mainstream critics tend to be lenient towards it, whereas they tend to attack movies that are okay. And again, that's why I said at the start of the video, I very rarely do I agree with critics. But on this instance, you know, in this occasion, I definitely do agree with the critics here. This movie is so bad. Wow, the critics got it right, man. This movie is one of the worst written movies I've ever seen. I mean, would I rather watch this movie over The Grudge? Probably not, because The Grudge made me physically sick. I mean, that movie was just, it was hard to watch. I mean, everything about that movie, again, I covered it in my review, that movie was the worst. Would I rather watch this over Black Christmas? Oh, even thinking about that movie, man. Probably. Black Christmas was the worst movie I've ever seen. But this movie isn't far behind it. It really isn't. And again, it's the same production company, so it's coming from that same disgusting company, Blumhouse, or Bumhouse as I call them. They make nothing but garbage-ass movies. One of the worst movie companies ever, man. I despise that company. They should be ashamed of themselves for the type of shit they make, seriously. I would rather watch Underwater than this movie. I mean, again, Underwater I thought was just a failed concept. It had some good ideas that just wasn't executed well. And again, like, this movie, I'd rather watch The Invisible Man than this. I think that was considerably better than this, even though I didn't like that movie. I still thought it was considerably better than this. So I won't say this is the worst movie of the year, because I still think The Grudge was worse. but this is a close second for worst movie of the year so far. Really, really bad movie. So let me know what you guys think anyway. This gets a big fat 1 out of 10. Absolute garbage. That's all I can say about this movie, man. What a piece of shit. Thanks for watching, guys. Stay tuned for more movie reviews. God bless.